The pay gap between husbands and wives may be closing for some couples, but a new survey shows the housework divide, it's still going strong. It found even women who make more money than their husbands still put in more hours on chores and childcare. Local 4's Priya Mann takes a closer look at the numbers and what they mean for couples. Priya?
Well, Karen, consider this. 50 years ago, more than 80% of men were the primary breadwinners. That number has since plummeted as more women entered the workforce. But when you look at the division of household work or childcare, well, the stats resemble closer to what we saw 50 years ago and don't represent the number of women who are in the workforce today. Take a listen.
That's exactly what I've seen over the years.
Dr. Rose Moten is a clinical psychologist and couples therapist and says the findings of a recent PEW Research study line up with what she's seeing. In 29% of heterosexual marriages today, women and men earn about the same at roughly 60 grand each. But husbands spend 3.5 hours more per week on leisure activities than their wives. And wives spend about 2 hours more per week on caregiving and 2.5 hours more on housework.
I don't think you have a choice. The rubber band just stretches. You just have to, fit your life around the circumstances.
How do you keep from snapping?
I don't know.
My husband does all the outside stuff. Like, I don't mow grass.
But you're here getting groceries.
But I am here doing groceries.
Men are now taking on more than they did, say, 20 years ago. 50 years ago, of course, but the division is still there and the inequity is still there, especially for women.
The Pew study found that in 55% of opposite-sex marriages, men are the primary or sole breadwinners, compared to 16% of marriages where the wives out-earn their husbands.
Even though we see this gap closing with salaries and the income that is being earned, there's still unfortunately some expectations that women should still be able to handle all of those things that the women of the 50s were able to handle when they did not work 40, 50, 60 hours outside of the household.
When you factor in race, the study found black women are significantly more likely than other women to be the primary breadwinner. 26% of black women earn more, compared to 17% of white women and 13% of Hispanic women.
Personally, in my friend group, this is a reality. I'm a black woman. I'm a clinical psychologist. The majority of my clientele are women, and so this is something that is real and it's talked about very often. And these are conversations we cannot be afraid to have with our partners.
And Dr. Moten says communication is key. Have those difficult conversations. Talk about your expectations. Talk about what would you do if things change, if one spouse loses a job, if another has more interest in childcare, how you can divide up some of that household labor. Some good advice to follow there. Reporting live tonight, I'm Priya Mann, Local 4.
Important conversations to be had, most definitely. Thank you, Priya.